It is Circa tonight, powered by SharpStack. Matt Brown and Steven Andress counting you down to what is going to be a banger of a Thursday night football game. Dallas Cowboys on the road at the Detroit Lions. Want to welcome our new radio partner in this, 1041 930 AM WKCT in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Welcome to you guys as well. And of course, our friends over at 4 for 4. Steven, these primetime games have certainly given, they have certainly taken away from us, but I believe this is going to give to us. I mean, Dallas and Detroit this time of year with what's on the line for both of these teams, couldn't ask for much more.
Oh, I can't wait. Typically my favorite Thursday night game of the year because you're getting both teams off full rest, having played on Thanksgiving. Huge high leverage game for the playoff picture between these two teams. Both really got to have it to be able to maybe get close to controlling their own destiny for a wild card spot, maybe more for the Cowboys at this point. We'll talk about that as well. But yeah, fired up for this new radio partner. I'm sitting here at Circa Sportsbook Kentucky, just on the border of Kentucky and Tennessee and Franklin. Excited to have WKCT with us here for our first show of the year with them.
Go see Steven if you have a chance. Go on down there. Of course, this is the best place to watch sports in Kentucky. There's no doubt about that. So this is just absolutely a little miniature version there of what we got going on out here in Vegas, and is certainly something that you want to go and take a look at. Steven, as we sit right now, this is 3.5 in favor of the home Detroit Lions. We are at 55.5 from a total perspective here in this one. And the Twitter machine just tells me that Brandon Aubrey just made a 59-yarder in pregame warmups, and then
for him, chip shot.
Yeah, 59-yarder in pregame warmups, and then 50. I mean, yeah, that's 60-yarder for him. That's what do we think? I mean, that's like that they forgot to add that he did it left-footed.
Yeah, that's in a dome. That's a first down and a half with the new touchback rules at 35-yard line. So, I'm very curious what you think of this spread overall, man, because this game is one of a few this week where if you're taking the full sample of the season, you might be on one side, but if you're looking more short-term and more recent, you might be on the complete other side of this game. Curious where you land on it.
Yeah, the big news here in this one is Amon-Ra St. Brown did not practice all week long with that ankle sprain and is active for this game. The inactive list on the Detroit side of things, Kirby Joseph, Khalif Raymond, and Mekhi Wingo, as far as like people that get actual real run for this team. But, you know, Steven, I guess the question becomes is it's a dude that didn't feel like he could get out there and practice all week long. He is a wide receiver that certainly relies on his fast twitch and runs the kind of routes where you would think you would need two healthy ankles. And how effective is Amon-Ra St. Brown going to be in this game? Because that really does play into the handicap here for this one. I mean, if you're on the Detroit side of things, I think you are certainly backing that you're going to get at least a pretty good performance out of him. And if you're on the Dallas side of things, you're hoping that you're getting a dude that's understanding what's on the line for Detroit, how they really, really need to rebound in this game, and he's going to play no matter what, but maybe he's not as effective as, we are used to seeing from Amon-Ra.
I am anticipating he's nowhere near 100% in this game. This was described when it happened as possibly a multi-week injury, but funny things happen when your team's playoff hopes are basically on the line at this point for the Detroit Lions. So they cannot lose more ground in the division, and the two teams that they're chasing are playing each other, which means if they lose this game, they're basically guaranteed to lose more ground in the division and the wild card chase. So, and they're playing a team who is chasing them for a wild card spot. It's not just that Amon-Ra St. Brown is banged up. It's that Sam Laporta is on IR. Khalif Raymond has been a viable target for them in relief when needed in the past. He's not playing in this game. They're down to their tight end 3, actually, with Brock Wright going on IR before this game. And the offensive line has been banged up as well coming into this for the last couple of weeks as well. So combine that with a couple of more guys banged up in the secondary for them. This is just a lot for Detroit to handle, in my opinion. If you look at the way these two teams have played over just the past 4 weeks, kind of a similar schedule strength, really. I mean, you have Detroit, who got to play Philadelphia and Green Bay. It's a couple of tough games, but the other 2 games were against Washington and the Giants. Dallas has gotten a couple of easy games against Arizona and Las Vegas, but had tougher games against the Eagles and Kansas City. If you just look at those last 4 games, Dallas is across the board better than Detroit, both on offense and on defense. If you look at the advanced metrics, EPA per play and success rate, there is no doubt who in the past 4 games is the better team here. And it's the team that's the underdog. So for me, Matt, this was one of the fastest bets I've made when it opened at Cowboys plus 170 on the money line. When this ticked back to 3.5 on the Amon-Ra St. Brown news, I added one more unit on the Cowboys to cover the 3.5 as the dog in this game. I think right now, as constructed, with the moves that they've made and some of the players they've gotten back from injury over the past few weeks, there is a strong argument to be made that the Cowboys very well may be one of the 5 best teams in the National Football League after that initial tier of the Rams and the Seahawks, in my opinion. So that's where I'm at on this. I'm very high on them, and I'm willing to bet on it tonight.
Yeah, I took the 3.5 as well with the Cowboys, and I took it a step further, and I put a little bit on minus 2.5 as well at plus 175 on Dallas. I actually think that they win this thing outright against Detroit. And this is a Detroit team that I had as high as 2nd in my power ratings not too long ago, but season evolves and things change, and we have to be, as sports bettors in a very small sample size sport, we have to be able to adapt along with that. And this is just not the same team without Laporta out there, without these defensive guys, with a at very best compromised Amon-Ra St. Brown out there. There's just a lot of times where this doesn't work out for Detroit against Dallas, who's coming in. Yes, they are down Guyton at their left tackle spot, but that's it for them. They are good to go everywhere else. And I see a team that is heading in the right direction, kind of one arrow up, one arrow down team in Detroit and Dallas right here. You say might be one of the 5 best teams in the NFL. I have them as 5 right now in my power ratings. And now, to be fair, there are 5 different teams that could be 5 right now. They're all within what I would say would be, a less than 1/10 of a point of each other. But Dallas ultimately gets the number 5 spot for me. I think that this defense, if you look, has been very, very good against the run. And we know, when does Detroit do their best work? When are they absolutely humming? And that is when Gibbs is kind of the straw that stirs the drink. And then Goff's able to play off of that throughout the pass game. And so I don't think this Dallas front with Quinnen Williams and Adden Wilson at linebacker, getting back overshown, all of that is going to allow them to go crazy on the ground here. So like I said, I took the 3.5 and then also played a little alt line at plus 175 at minus 2.5 on Dallas.
I love it, man. I love it. I think our eyes are telling us one thing, and the more recent sample size of these metrics confirm what our eyes are seeing about these two teams. I took it a step further, Matt. I started looking big picture with the Cowboys too. And I know the NFC is loaded compared to the AFC this year, but I see some potential ceiling outcomes and some prices at the sports books, including here at Circa, that I wanted to take advantage of this week. And it starts with the NFC East, with the Cowboys still being 7-1 to win that division. A game and a matchup I like this week with getting the Lions banged up, and then a very favorable schedule the rest of the way with home games against the Vikings and Chargers before going on the road to end the season at the Commanders and the Giants. I think the Cowboys are favored in every one of those final 4 games to end the year. Meanwhile, the Eagles cannot figure out their offense. They've had a ton of time to figure it out. They just have not done it. Jalen Hurts is not playing well, and they still have games on the schedule this week at the Chargers, at Buffalo still, 2 games against Washington, who, if you watched the Monday night game against Denver, you know they are still punchy, and you know they're going to play hard for Dan Quinn. So it is not out of the realm of possibility that you have a situation where this tie comes up huge for the Cowboys that they have. They may finish 11-5-1 if they win out, and the Eagles don't win the division, and you're cashing a 7-1 ticket. I think 30-1 on the Cowboys to win the conference, which would make them the 9th choice on the odds board, is ludicrous at this point. There are so many more teams above them on that odds board that I would take the Cowboys over, and you're getting 30-1. And the last thing I'll mention, the coach of the year market. I think Mike Vrabel for the Patriots is a very soft favorite, Matt. I think all of the credit for that team and from the voters will likely go to the quarterback, Drake May, and to a very easy schedule. I think that's where the credit will go. So if somebody steps up and becomes more of the traditional out of nowhere coach who took a team from no expectations to a great solid situation and into the playoffs at the end of the year, I think it's very possible that Vrabel loses this. Ben Johnson is the most likely because of his respect among the league. He's already shortened to plus 275. Brian Schottenheimer is still 35-1 in this market. Everybody thought he was not a good coach. He's earned a ton of respect around league circles this entire year, and he has the path to get to the playoffs now in the final month or so of the season. So I like all of those prices.
They are starting to repopulate the prop market with Amon-Ra St. Brown numbers, and books don't really know what to think here. So we have a market low of 61.5. We have a market high of 67.5. Of course, we will circle back around to this game at the end of the show to see where the line sits and where we are with all of this. But, this is obviously not a typical line for Amon-Ra St. Brown. So at least the people out there do believe. And if you're watching us, you can see the power of SharpStack. If you want to take advantage of that, you can go in. That is TNF Live is the promo code, 7 days for free, 25% off when you do actually go end up subscribing. You can go and compare all the different markets out there. Just one fell swoop. It's really, really powerful tool for you, not only from a line perspective, but from an odds perspective. But Steven, I'm just looking at this and wondering, he either soars. It's such a cop out to say he either soars over this or he is way under this. Like there's really no in between.
I agree. There's like a 6-yard cushion right now. That's the other power of SharpStack. You can see if there's a possible middle here where you can bet over at one book and under at the other. There's a 6-yard cushion here with Amon-Ra's market, which usually doesn't happen because the books don't know what to do with him. 62.5 at DraftKings and 68.5 at BetMGM. Yeah, my guess is he's going to give it a shot. Sometimes you get these painkiller situations with these players and it wears off in the second half. Like that's what I've heard when I work for the Colts. You might have a situation here where you have maybe like a high reception, but a low efficiency, low yardage game for Amon-Ra St. Brown. That wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility for me. I just don't know what this Lions offense is going to look like right now. I think there's a ton of question marks with this offense from a prop betting perspective, where I'd be a lot more likely to bet a prop for the Dallas Cowboys than I did. I bet Jake Ferguson, their tight end, plus 160 to be an anytime touchdown scorer in this one. And it just is because of the way he's been used in the red zone and inside the 10-yard line. He has 10 targets inside the 10-yard line this year. CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens have 12 combined. So Dak is very much looking for Jake Ferguson in the red zone in this offense.
Yeah, the last one for me is I did play Dwelly over his receiving yards. There is a market low of 10.5 out there on Dwelly. And here's the thing, Steven. Yes, he's third on the depth chart in the pecking order, but we know how important the tight end position has been and was for this offense. And so I don't think he gets completely ignored here. And especially if we believe that Amon-Ra St. Brown is playing compromised, then we're talking 11 yards, right? I mean, we're talking 11 yards. That could be one catch, that could be two catches, but we're talking very little production out of a guy that I think they can't just completely ignore. They're going to have to, again, against this high-powered Dallas offense, I think they're going to have to try and keep up. And I think that means extra pass attempts because this run defense has been so good for Dallas here over the last month of the season. So I took a shot on him. Obviously not as good now as it was when I thought that Amon-Ra was not going to play, but I still don't hate it.
Yeah, I love that look. We're getting some text questions in here as well. And in the comments on the YouTube side, we'll just quickly hit a couple of these. Rye Guy wants to know if he's starting Dak or Stafford this week. In fantasy, I would lean Dak in that one just because the total is so high in this one. 55 is still has the possibility of a shootout. And then our guy from a couple of weeks ago, Harry Livermore, our by Schottenheimer Coach of the Year bet's still alive. I just said it, man. He's 35-1, but I think he's very live still if they win tonight and win out the rest of the way. So thanks for the questions coming in here from our viewers.
Yeah, I mean, Dak's in a 55.5 total game. You got Stafford in a 47.5 total game, and also a spread that's 8.5 to where they could get up in this thing, and then they just kind of hit cruise control, right? I mean, Marvin Harrison, DNP for the second time today. So he's probably going to be out yet again. There's a chance that this Rams team is able to shut it down in the second half. And so I don't think that luxury is going to be on the table for Dak, though.
Completely agree. Could be a very positive game script and maybe not even a lot of Kyron Williams, maybe a lot of Blake Corum in the second half of that Rams game.
All right, so let's move on here. Again, we will circle back before we wrap things up here to see where this line moves, see where these props have gone and all of that. But again, I am on Dallas at 3.5, even played some alt on the other side of this thing for Dallas as well. Washington and Minnesota. This is 1.5, 2 in favor of the Minnesota Vikings, a total of 42.5 to 43 out there in the market. And Steven, I have by far the worst of the number in this thing. I have a Commanders -1 ticket that I thought was going to race to 3 whenever we got news that it looked pretty positive for Jaden Daniels to be back for this week. He gets in a full practice today, and this thing still is moving against me and has moved against me and is not moving back towards Washington. I'm wondering if I'm seeing this wrong here. I understand Minnesota's blitz happy defense is at least a could be a factor in this thing, but like the defense is not supposed to be able to score points. That's not to say they won't score points, but they're not supposed to be able to score points. And so where does Minnesota score point? We have seen what JJ McCarthy and Max Brosmer look like trying to operate this offense. I am just baffled as to why this line moved against me as much as it did and why it's not moving back in the other direction after Jaden Daniels gets in a full practice today.
The only possible explanation I have, and I'm not saying I believe this, but perhaps the market believes Jaden is practicing but might not actually play because they only have 3 wins on the season, nothing left to play for. And the worst case scenario here is he's injured for the start of next season. I don't know. That's just my theory on this. So I would imagine if, we get one of those patented Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport tweets at midnight on Sunday, and it confirms that Jaden Daniels is playing, then this will move back and flip favorites back the other way. So I'm going to be honest with you though, Matt, I know you got the worst of the number. Even if you get the worst of the number around 0 here, they're mostly insignificant numbers. I wouldn't feel awful about holding a Marcus Mariota -1 against JJ McCarthy. I mean, that's kind of how I feel about this.
Even if it's not Jaden Daniels, Marcus Mariota will still be the best quarterback on the field in that game, no matter who the Vikings have to play.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. JJ McCarthy, by advanced metrics, has been one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. Really, the only two that have been worse have been the Browns quarterbacks, Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, from an EPA plus completion percentage over expected composite score. So minus that, he's been awful. He's been one of the worst quarterbacks post-pandemic since 2021. It just so happens that there's a few of those this year in the NFL. So I'm with you, man. Like, this team is just a non-starter for me with the Minnesota Vikings with their quarterback situation right now. And you saw that against one of the best defenses in the league last week in the Denver Broncos. Washington could move the ball just fine and shorten the game with their efficient running attack. So yeah, it's Commanders or nothing for me in this one.
Yeah, just I was shocked it moved again. It's maybe I'll end up not having the absolute worst of it after, if he does get ruled in, but even at the one, I don't hate it, right? Like, I just think that I think that we're just looking at a Minnesota team that, the defense is definitely the best unit on the field. But unfortunately, when the defense is the best unit on the field and the offense is as atrocious as the Vikings have been, it doesn't really make it to where it swings heavily in their favor. Like, you got to at least have a pulse on the offensive side, Steven. And we have not seen that at all from Minnesota.
Completely agree with you. One of my favorite bets of the year, and I'm not just saying that in hindsight, I thought it before the game started, was when the Packers were -6.5 against JJ McCarthy at home a couple of weeks ago. I could not believe that was on the wrong side of 7. If you think of it in terms of this guy's metrics are basically a mirror of what Anthony Richardson was for the Colts, would you ever take less than a touchdown with a quarterback as bad as Anthony Richardson with what we know about that level of quarterback play at this point? The answer is no. So yeah, I know the records are both bad, but we have two very different tiers of quarterbacks in this game.
Miami's on the road at the Jets as 3-point favorites. This is a very low 41.5 total out there in the market. We know how this is gonna play out with this. It's still Tyrod Taylor. It is still no Garrett Wilson. It is this Miami team that I thought was absolutely dead and left for dead, but it seems like they're kind of like trying to fight a little bit, which is shocking to me. I thought they would see the writing on the wall that maybe this was kind of a dead coach walking situation and just punt on the season. But Miami's got a little spunk, and they've given a little bit of fight, which is why they are full field goal favorites on the road at the Jets. The first thing everyone's going to point out, Steven, and it is Miami heading up to the Jets during the cold weather season. And so, we know that has not worked out historically for them. What say you here as field goal favorites over this Jets team?
I will agree with you about the weather angle here with Tua and a Miami team going up north, but the forecast for the Northeast has greatly improved from what it was on Sunday when these lines opened, and it's not even going to be below freezing anymore for this game at the Meadowlands. It's more like 40 degrees and really no wind either in the forecast for this. So it's going to be downright balmy out there for the Miami Dolphins. It's Miami or nothing for me in this game. It was such a smoke and mirrors win for the Jets last week. It was just, laughable the way the Falcons and Raheem Morris managed that game. You get a muffed punt that led to a Jets 2-yard touchdown drive to help that offense. You had an 83-yard kick return by the Jets that led to another free 3 points in a game where they only won by 3 points. And then with 2 minutes left in a tie game, the Falcons threw 5 incompletions in 2 possessions and allowed the Jets to save 1 timeout and have enough time to make a game-winning field goal, instead of that game just having the clock run out and running the ball and the Falcons just going to overtime. So a complete colossal failure of clock management by Raheem Morris at the end of that game. It's not a predictive win for me for the Jets. I'm not hopping back on them after betting them last week. It would be Dolphins or nothing for me, but I would need under the key number of 3 here. It's been kind of bouncing back and forth. So I think if you're patient right now, there's a lot of 3s. But I think if you're patient and watching carefully and you are interested in the Dolphins, you can wait for a -2.5. There's at least one spot where it's a -2.5, -120 right now. So I think that will become available more widely on and off up until kickoff.
Tennessee Titans on the road at the Cleveland Browns, and you're just going to have to trust me on this one that the Browns are 4-point favorites against the Tennessee Titans. 34 is the prevailing total, though you can find 33.5 out there if you're looking to bet the over in this thing. Steven, your guess is as good as mine here. I mean, conventional thinking for me would be, when am I going to get to ever get 4 points against Shedeur Sanders ever again in the history of the world? But at the same time, Cam Ward went right back this past week to where he was all season long, just absolutely terrible. This team is so incredibly bad. Cleveland's defense could force a million turnovers in this thing, million sacks, all of that. So no bet for me. I can't even believe I say that I would want to take the points with Tennessee if I did bet this thing, but fortunately we don't have to bet every game on the board.
Well, I pride myself on being a bit of a betting masochist at times when it comes to this. You know me, we've been doing shows together for a few years now, so it will not shock you that after talking about how bad of a team the Titans have been for upwards of 2 months now, one of, if not the worst teams since 2021, I found my buy point because Shedeur Sanders was a 4.5-point favorite in this game. And as bad as Cam Ward and the Titans have been, Shedeur Sanders would be dead last in the advanced metrics, even worse than Dylan Gabriel. And he's got a game, granted, small sample size, but he's got a game in that sample that included a dome game against the Raiders, and he's still dead last in these advanced metrics. So I'm going to pay to see Shedeur Sanders win a game by 5 points. I can already see how I lose the bet. Myles Garrett wins a game by 5 points, something like that, right? So it's just a plug your nose special, taking the price on two bad teams. The weather's not as bad as it initially was going to look, like a normal windy Cleveland game. It actually looks like it's going to be less than 10-mile-per-hour winds there. So I do think Cam Ward can get a little bit of a passing game going here. Obviously, the Browns have the best unit in the game on the defense. I want to have some fun and take the points on a bad team against what I think is the worst quarterback in the game, getting a lot of points.
Yeah, I'm with you. You know what? I should note one thing about the Jets. One thing I did do is I know it's kind of the popular thing to talk about right now in the sports betting world, but I did play AD Mitchell like on a ladder system here because he is going to get the opportunity. It's whether he actually catches the ball or not is the problem. But I mean, he's set at 46.5, Steven. Like, you know, I did 60, I did all the way to 90. Like I went 60, 70, 80, 90 because it's, again, he is the type of dude that can get you there on a couple of catches. And by the way, Miami's secondary is bad as it is anyway and gives up explosive plays at the third highest rate in the NFL. It's just, again, he's just got to catch the ball. That's the biggest problem there with that one. But there is a range of outcomes where he goes for over 100 yards in this game.
I'm using SharpStack right now to see where he's lined across books. And you thought that Amon-Ra St. Brown line had a wide range of 6 yards. Right now, AD Mitchell is anywhere between 38.5 minus 117 to the over at Bet Rivers and 51.5 under to the under at the former ESPN Bet, now the Score Bet Sportsbook. And 38.5 to 51.5 is a crazy wide range here, but I'm with you. It's the over for me. I mean, he showed what his ceiling is. The offensive coordinator gushed about him in a press conference, so I think that's a great look by you for sure.
Pittsburgh is on the road at Baltimore. This has fallen to 5.5 in favor of the Ravens. 42.5 is our total. If you're wondering why this came off the 6, what we've gotten the past 4 weeks is Lamar Jackson on the injury report and not practicing on Wednesday, only to go back out there on Thursday. He was out there on Wednesday and then DNP'd on Thursday, which is never any good. Thursday, not a day you want to regress into a DNP. They have not made a big deal out of it so far, but Steven, this is a guy that's obviously playing hurt. He looks like a shell of himself. And if he couldn't get out there on the field on Thursday, he'll probably do some sort of limited something on Friday and all that. But as much as I hate this Steelers team and think they are fraudulent, I understand people taking the sixes at that point, because it seems like it's yet another injury with Lamar. This one listed as a knee. So it's been a hamstring, a foot, a toe, a knee, and now it's back to a knee again, all this stuff. And, this Ravens team has looked absolutely horrific with an injured Lamar back there. So I actually agree with people scooping up the sixes.
You could tell me that one of these teams blows out the other, and it wouldn't shock me. I think it's just the complete range of outcomes with this situation. You have two injured quarterbacks, one with a very injured non-throwing hand. It's affecting him taking snaps and handoffs and whatnot. And the other, his entire lower body is banged up in Lamar Jackson here. I agree with you. I understand why the sixes were gobbled up on the Steelers here as the dog. Divisional game as well. Everything on the line here. Typically, this would have been a spot where I was ready to buy low on the Ravens, because I thought that Thursday night game was so fluky and so weird in the first half. If we're being honest, that score should have been 21-9 Ravens at halftime, if not for Isaiah Likely fumbling through the back of the end zone and a very questionable offensive pass interference call on Zay Flowers. Basically the exact same play that Jamar Chase was not called for in the game. So I don't know how bad certainly they were horrendous for a lot of the rest of that game once they got behind, Lamar Jackson fumbling the ball, etc. But I'm having trouble taking that and also seeing what he's been, not even looking good in a Jets game before that. The rushing attack is not there for Lamar Jackson. Midweek downgrade is awful. Usually never want to bet into that. So this is just a stay away for me and watch. And if they look as bad as we think they are again in this matchup, then it might be seeing if the Bengals pull another upset here and seeing if they're live to win this division after this week.
Seattle is on the road at Atlanta. This is 7 in favor of Seattle. 44.5 is our total here in this one, as Seattle looks to be one of the better teams in the NFL. You get another week, of course, we know, as Kirk Cousins is having to get trot out there because Michael Penix is on IR. Doesn't look like Drake London is going to play yet again. He DNP'd again on Thursday today. If you're Atlanta, the season's lost. So do you really want to trot him back out there? I think there's a real question whether he's just going to end up being done for the rest of the season as it is. Steven, I mean, my real question here is 7 too much? I think this is a fantastic teaser leg. I do not see Seattle going and laying an egg here in Atlanta with everything on the line for Seattle. I mean, this is a team that, at this point, with how wide open everything is, it's a legitimate Super Bowl contender. And by the way, don't know if they'll make it back this week, but they did open the window for Love and Reed to come off of IR. That is two legitimately good starters for Seattle. It's been a good defense anyway. And you get Jaron Reed and Julian Love back on the defensive side at least sometime in the next couple of weeks for them. It's going to be hell on wheels for this team for sure. But teaser leg for me, I don't want to lay the full 7, but I would not talk you off of it if you did want to.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's been actually one-way action on the Falcons so far. This opened 8.5, so it's moved a 1.5, which is significant. But I don't really understand it if Drake London's not going to play in this game. I thought that movement was on a report about Drake London being day-to-day and possibility of him getting back. But since that line movement, he's been back-to-back DMP, so it doesn't make sense to me anymore. The Seahawks have the best rushing defense in the NFL, so I think they are perfectly suited to slow down Bijan Robinson. So at that point, you're relying on Darnell Mooney catching a lot of passes from Kirk Cousins or Kyle Pitts finally realizing his potential. I'm good on that, man. This is a slam dunk teaser leg to me. I completely agree with you. I thought about the total for a little bit, maybe betting the under, but it is still in a dome in perfect conditions, and it's not a particularly high total at 44.5. I'm right in lockstep with you, and I agree. I can't see them laying an egg here, with the gift that they were given of a Rams loss against the Panthers last week, and now everything being on the table for them in terms of possibly even getting the 1 seed in a first-round bye in the postseason.
The Indianapolis Colts are on the road at the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they're going to go into Jacksonville as 1.5 to 2 point favorites in this one. 46.5 to 47 is our total here in this one. Stephen, we know Sauce Gardner out for Indianapolis, and we also know that Daniel Jones is playing with a fracture in his leg. And so I need you to make this make sense to me, why they are favored on the road at Jacksonville. I can't get there. It's another one of these games where I was on the other side, thought for sure Jacksonville would be a short favorite in this one. And again, this line is not really moving towards Jacksonville either. What am I missing here?
I think it's another game on the schedule this week where if you look at the full body of work, you're going to side with the Colts. If you're going to look at the recent sample of the past month or so, you're probably going to side with the Jaguars. I certainly understand your opinion on this one. I do have to question a little bit of this Jags resurgence last 3 weeks where they played. I mean, I know they dominated the Chargers 35-6, but Chargers have no offensive line. They weren't ready to handle that situation. They went to overtime to beat a bad Arizona team, and then they stomped Tennessee, obviously, which doesn't really mean much to me. So meanwhile, the Colts were coming off a really tough stretch in their schedule where they've had that road game at Pittsburgh where they lost. They had to go across the ocean to Berlin to play that Falcons game, come back off the bye week to go to Kansas City, and then host one of the 2 best defenses in the league in Houston. So this is a stay away for me. It might be a live betting opportunity. I think we know the Jags are trying to mask Trevor Lawrence's deficiencies with how bad he's been, and that has meant trying to be very efficient in running the ball. If I watch this game early and the Jags are having trouble running the ball, I'm probably going to live bet Indy. But pregame, there's too many question marks for me here. Certainly see the downgrade that the Colts have on defense if Sauce Gardner is going to miss, and also until DeForest Buckner comes back on the defensive line. But yeah, I'm kind of perplexed on this one as well.
So I pulled the trigger on the Jags, and the thing for me is I had kind of a blind spot for this team for whatever reason, and how good this defense has been, not just recently, but all season long. And it's gotten even better recently. It's like, it is definitely arrow up for this Jags defense. And now you get a really easy blueprint of how to go after this team because it's been laid out for you by these teams over the last few weeks. You load the box, you stop Jonathan Taylor, and you make Daniel Jones have to make tight window throws and have to make him make throws against you. And he has to do it on a consistent basis on that leg. And I don't think he can do it. I mean, again, I really liked this Colts team at the beginning of the year. I liked what Daniel Jones was doing, but it's just a deal where I can't imagine you can be anywhere close to as effective dealing with what he's dealing with in his leg. And Steven, one of the, I think it seems like almost a lazy handicap at this point, because if you go in and you take a look and it's like, well, his mobility and, that's going to be affected. And, how can you ever back him? It's really just his elusiveness in the pocket. It's not really like Daniel Jones is a air quote running quarterback. He has as many games with 1 yard rushing as he does with 20 yards rushing this season, right? Like he just moves around in the pocket and he was able to create a little bit more distance, a little bit more time, a little bit more space, all the stuff like that. They were able to use play action more and roll him out more and all those things. Now that is affected obviously by this leg thing. You could see that in the play calling over the last couple of weeks, but it's not like he's a air quote mobile quarterback. Like I said, I mean, he has literally as many games with 1 yard rushing this season as he does with 20 yards rushing this season. So I think that's too much for them to overcome in this one against a defense that I think is really, really trending in the right direction. So really do like this Jags team a ton. Again, guys, this is Circa tonight. We are counting you down to Thursday night football. This is currently 3.5 in favor of the Detroit Lions, 55.5 is our total here in this one. We are proudly presented by our friends over at SharpStack and do appreciate our new radio partner in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Talk 104.1, 9:30 a.m. WKCT. Matt Brown and Stephen Andress here as we go through each one of these games, all the bets in our account, any leans we have. And if we hate a game, we'll let you know that too, which we kind of maybe have gotten to whenever we get to the New Orleans Saints and the Tampa Bay Bucks. This is 8.5 in favor of the Bucks at home over the New Orleans Saints, a really low 41.5 total. We got Mike Evans and Jalen McMillan back practicing for the Bucks this week. That does not mean they'll get activated, but they are at least back practicing here in this one. So they could, if they feel good enough to go. Stephen, everything about this seems right. I mean, the Bucks, the second week back of Bucky Irving, could get Mike Evans, could get McMillan, could get both back in this. No Alvin Kamara again for the Saints this week. All the things, it just, I don't know. Everything about this game just seems right to me.
And the Bucks didn't exactly inspire confidence finally getting a step down in class in their schedule last week. They only beat the Cardinals by 3. They lost yards per play by 1.4, which for the uninitiated is a pretty wide margin, and being that far behind in yards per play. That was despite forcing 2 Arizona turnovers in that game. If we think it's right, though, isn't this a quintessential teaser leg for the Bucks?
For
down
sure.
to the key numbers of 7 and 3. That's the only thing I'm interested in this game. I would tease the Bucks here, Matt.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a great teaser leg. I just think that everything about this screams correct. I mean, New Orleans, they've tried to fight. They just don't have any talent. I mean, you know, it's not like they've given up on the season. Again, they just don't have the bodies, right? I mean, they just don't have the dudes. And so you're wondering like, oh man, it's only a total of 41. Yeah. I mean, it's because you can't really count on what New Orleans is going to be able to do from an offensive perspective. Shook is, again, we don't really know what he is, but Shook he's been okay. I guess he hasn't been horrific, but he certainly could go on the road here to Tampa and look horrific. I think that is certainly in the range of outcomes.
I agree for sure. And I certainly like that the Bucks, you mentioned Bucky Irving. I almost care as much about Hassan Reddick in the pass rush and Jamel Dean in the secondary being back for the Buccaneers in this game. I think that makes a huge difference for them moving forward, with them looking to try and wrap up this division down the stretch here against division opponents that they've pretty much handled over the years. Now, 2 games left against Carolina still, but they're in full control of this division still after playing a tough part of their schedule. So, and they're fine. I think they had their eyes on the prize overall with the luxury they have in this division and just letting guys get healthy until this final stretch here at the end of the year. So I think it's arrow up on the Bucks, especially now that they've taken a step down in class in their opponents.
Cincinnati Bengals are on the road at the Buffalo Bills. This is 5.5 in favor of Buffalo. No man's land, and everybody's left this alone. Nobody knows what to do with this game. It has been stuck in the mud at 5.5. 53.5 is our total, Stephen. As we know, it looks as if we are trending to get T. Higgins back in this one as well. So we are getting a full strength offense here on the Cincinnati side of things. Buffalo coming off of a big win. Interesting game here to me because, as you mentioned, Cincinnati might not be dead quite yet. Buffalo might not be dead quite yet with, their aspirations of all of that. And so this seems like a very fun game to find out what these teams are all about. 2 all-world quarterbacks going head-to-head in a game that means a ton.
Yeah, I would say the only thing here in terms of side or total that's gotten a little interest is the over, and it makes sense to me with 2 defenses that have been questionable at best against 2 all-world quarterbacks. I really wanted to bet Buffalo in this game. I just can't quite get there at this juncture. Dalton Kincaid had another setback. It doesn't look like he's going to be back. Joey Bosa, their pass rusher, looks like he's going to miss this game. That would have been nice to have against Joe Burrow because he did not really face a pass rush in that Baltimore Thanksgiving game. May not face another one here, and might add T. Higgins back. The other side, I'm not sure if Buffalo missing their starting left and right tackle will matter again this week. It certainly didn't matter in that Pittsburgh game last week. And without Trey Hendrickson for Cincinnati, the Bengals don't have a pass rush either. So it might be another opportunity to give those two guys another week off here for this Buffalo offense. The only thing I would say, Matt, as a potential betting opportunity, in my opinion, is to just monitor the weather. This is like that lake effect snow season up in Buffalo, which I know all too well, having gone to Syracuse and not seeing a blade of grass until mid-April for 4 years. It's looking possible to have snow or a icy sleet mix in this game. A little bit of wind, not a ton of wind, like a Cleveland game where it's over 20 miles per hour. If we get to game day and it's looking like a wintry mess in Buffalo, then I'm not sure, even with these two quarterbacks, this total should be as high as it is at 53.5 after opening at 52.5.
So that is the bet that I bet the under at 53.5 already.
Okay.
In this one. And the weather certainly is at least somewhat part of the handicap, but I think it's more of just kind of the cherry on top. Whereas we are looking at the 30th and 31st ranked rush defenses in the NFL in Cincinnati and Buffalo. And I think both of these teams are going to have the easiest success going on the ground. I mean, for two different reasons. One, Buffalo hasn't had a consistent pass attack all season long anyway. James Cook has been the MVP of, no offense to Josh Allen, but James Cook's been the MVP of this offense so far this year because, look, Josh Allen, to be fair, just doesn't have a consistent receiver, right? I mean, he just doesn't have a guy that he can go to, and he doesn't have a true number one. And so with that, I am sitting here looking at this team and saying, okay, they use James Cook a ton in this one. And then if you're Cincinnati, even though you do have Higgins and Chase, Steven, we are, the easiest path against Buffalo is on the ground. I don't know if that's by design, if they are allowing teams to run and they're being really stingy through the air by design, but I think we see a bunch of running in this game too. And so it's just a combination of all the things here led me to an under.
Can't blame you for that. I want to get an expletive-filled text message from you, though, if somebody busts off like a 60-yard rushing touchdown in this game. Can you promise me that?
Yeah, but I mean, hey, if it's only one, I don't even care. That's fine. Keep it to
all
one.
Right.
That's all I'm worried about. Let's head to the afternoon slate. Denver on the road at Las Vegas. This is 7.5 in favor of the Broncos. It is a very low 40-point total as well. This is another prime teaser leg for the Broncos. You could take them down to 1.5 against this Raiders team that looks absolutely lost on the offensive side of the ball. Steven, they fired Chip Kelly. It didn't matter. They couldn't do anything on offense. Geno Smith is terrible. And oh, by the way, popped up on the injury report with a foot injury. He couldn't play with 2 feet, so I don't know if I want to back him with 1 foot in this whole thing. I think this is, if you're looking for a dance partner for some of these other teaser legs that we've talked about, I think that this is a really good candidate. I don't know if I want to lay 7.5 with Denver with the way that they play, but 1.5 with the way that they play, I think is perfectly fine.
Yeah, I'm not gonna bust your chops for that one at all. I certainly understand that. I'll just say that it's never Bo Nix laying more than a touchdown at this point. I've said that for a few weeks now, but for our new audience, it's never that. And I've said this for a few weeks now, but again, for our new audience in Bowling Green, I think the Raiders are closer to the Titans than they are the other bad teams in the NFL. I think they're that bad. So they can't block with that offensive line, and they're facing a historically good pass rush here in the Denver Broncos. And then on the other side, Bo Nix, again, minus 3.8 completion percentage over expected last week, despite having an average depth of target of only 4.7 yards down the field. He still couldn't complete more passes than was expected with an average depth of target less than 5 yards down the field. And for the season, he's 42.5% success rate. Only Cam Ward, J.J. McCarthy, and Dylan Gabriel have been worse. I stay away from the side, certainly like the teaser leg. I opted for the under 41.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think a Raiders or a Broncos game should have a total that starts with the number 4. That's just my opinion at this point.
Yeah, it's crazy. That being said, I think I'd probably only lay it actually with Denver. And I know that's crazy to say. I don't really like those styles.
I mean, I get it.
It's just this, like you said, I think the Raiders are, I mean, I have them as the third worst team in the NFL, right? So, I mean, like that should tell you a lot right there. Chicago Bears on the road at the Green Bay Packers in a prove-it game, if there ever was a prove-it game, because this is 6.5 in favor of the Packers. Yes, against the number one seed in the NFC. 44.5 is our total. I mean, Steven, you want to talk about a prove-it game? This is, everyone's talking about the Bears are so lucky, and they're playing all these tight games, and they're winning the one-score games, and yada, 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 yada. Well, you know, they're winning them. And there's something to be said for winning those games. Green Bay, one of the more frustrating teams all season long, is they've really just not put 60 minutes together all year. They are going to have to win this thing by a touchdown. What say you?
This one fascinates me from a betting perspective, Matt. And I think it's, again, another game this week where are you going to look at the full body of work of these two teams, or are you going to look more recently? You're looking at the full body of work, you're probably with the market here and betting the Packers. This opened 5.5. It's out to 6.5. There are some sevens popping up, juiced towards the Bears, but touched a 7 nonetheless. If you're looking more recently, you might be interested in the Bears here. And I think I can understand why, because I admit that there were some smoke and mirrors and last minute wins against bad teams that got them to this record, but they are healthier now on defense. Now, they didn't have any new injuries on Black Friday in that Eagles game. They had 3 linebackers as 3 times DMP in that game that missed. It looks like they should get at least 1, maybe 2 of those linebackers back. They now have back their top 2 cornerbacks in Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon. CJ Gardner-Johnson has come in off the street and done a fine job at the nickelback position. Now, if we flip to the other defense here with the Packers, they lost their nose tackle Wyatt. Their other defensive tackle Brooks was back-to-back limited with an ankle. Their safety Bullard was a midweek downgrade to DMP today. Their offensive line, their tackle Zach Tom, back-to-back limited with a back, with their other big-time offensive lineman Elkton Jenkins already on IR. I think this Bears offense is turning into an elite rushing attack. Their metrics over the past few weeks and coming off the bye week is reminding me a lot of those Jason Kelce-led offensive lines on the Philadelphia Eagles, where they could run on anybody and run for huge chunk plays. That rushing offense was one of the best in recent history, 21st century NFL, with Miles Sanders at the running back position. And I'm seeing a lot of the same chunk plays and creativity from the film grinders with this Bears rushing attack as well, with DeAndre Swift as the running back and a 7th-round rookie in Kyle Monangai. This offensive line is outstanding for Chicago. And now we're at a price point with the Bears in this game that is actually cheaper in some spots than what the Vikings were with J.J. McCarthy just 2 weeks ago when they went to Green Bay, and they were only 6.5-point dogs. So I bet the Bears at +7, -116. That was a great buy point for me. I just think they match up really well with some good but not great wide receivers for Green Bay. And I think Green Bay in this first matchup, they play again in 2 weeks, but for this first matchup, have little too much going on the injury report for the Packers.
I mean, we don't talk about this stuff before we come on here because we want to have fresh opinions and all of that. I'm a little scared as to how much we're agreeing on here in this one, because I also bet them at 7. I think that they have a chance to win this thing outright. I think that Ben Johnson has figured this out. And like you said, we're talking about a top 5 offensive line in all of the NFL for this Chicago Bears team. And oh, by the way, on the defensive side of the ball, it's a very similar type deal to what we were getting from the Cowboys, which we've talked about already, Steven. If you go out and start in kind of like the middle of the season where it's like, okay, you give these guys some time to sink in. You start at week 8, they're like middle of the pack. And like, if you're middle of the pack, that's pretty good. And like you said, now they're getting some of these other guys back. You would think that would only increase kind of where they are going to end up with all of this. And with the way the offense is functioning right now, if you can get into that kind of top 12, top 10 defensive conversation, I think this is a really, really tough out for a lot of people out there. And I understand the turnover luck and all the things and variance and yada, yada, and all the stuff that you and I talk about on a regular basis. But at the end of the day, this is a team that is very well coached, that I think is really hitting its stride at the best possible time. And I think 7 points is just too much against a very inconsistent Green Bay team.
One of the most overlooked aspects of NFL handicapping, at least according to a guy that I think you and I both respect for his NFL content over the last few years, Adam Chernoff. One of his favorite handicapping spots is when a team loses their nose tackle, their run stuffer on the defensive line, and then has to go up against a great rushing attack. Often that's overlooked in NFL pricing, in betting odds, etc. And that is, again, the situation here with what we just talked about with the Bears rushing attack and the Packers losing their nose tackle in Wyatt. So, and it's been nothing but Packers money on the spread here this week. I think it's a great spot for the Bears here. We're in agreement, and I guess we'll see why we're wrong since we're against the market on this one.
Final afternoon game, the Rams on the road at the Arizona Cardinals. This is 8.5 in favor of the Rams, trying to bounce back off of that loss last week as 10.5 point favorites. 47.5 is our total, as mentioned a little bit earlier in the show. Back-to-back DNPs for Marvin Harrison. He's trending in the wrong direction. Trey Benson, back-to-back DNPs. Steven, he's only got 6 days left on his window. I don't think he's going to make it back. Like, I think Trey Benson's just going to be on the shelf for the rest of the season. This could be just the Bam night show here for the rest of the year for Arizona. It's a lot of points. For me, if you want to play them in a teaser leg, I think that's fine. I just don't have any interest in laying the points here with the Rams, even though I still really, really, really like the Rams. Still have them as number one in my power ratings. This seems like a sleepy spot again for them. And, again, number seems fine. I can see them winning by a touchdown, and then I don't cover my bet. Backdoor seems to be probably open here in this one with Jacoby Brissett and how willing he is to huck it all over the field. So for me, going to be a pass. Again, if somebody wanted to throw it in as a teaser, I think that's fine.
Agreed. After Jacoby Brissett came out guns blazing off the bench for the Arizona Cardinals, the offensive line has gotten banged up and he started to come back down to earth. He's been very susceptible to pressure. He's holding the ball too long. So that's a bad combination here against this Rams pass rush. So to me, it's just tease the Rams or look at Rams team total. I bet Rams over 27.5 on the team total last week. I bet it again this week, even though it's a little bit more juice, minus 125, which certainly understand if that's too much juice for some people out there. But I think either of those options are great. I think Arizona is just running out of bodies very fast, including on defense with probably their best player, the rookie first rounder, Walter Nolan, on the defensive line. He was 3 times the MP last week. So if he comes back this week, he's probably not even 100% if he comes back at all. This is just too many injuries for the Arizona Cardinals, a team that's gotten blown out by a couple of division rivals here from the Rams already with the Seahawks and Niners games a few weeks ago for the Cardinals.
We are minutes away here from Dallas and Detroit Thursday night football, 3.5. It has not moved off the number here, Steven, in favor of Detroit. 55.5 out there in the market right now from a total standpoint. Of course, we don't have to worry about the weather. They're in a dome, so perfect conditions for both of these teams to go at it. Like I said, I am on the plus 3.5 with Dallas. I also went alt line at minus 2.5 with them at plus 175. I think this Dallas team is heading in the right direction. Obviously, a elite offense as it is already, but this defense has really shown up in the last month of the season, specifically in the run game, forcing teams to be one-dimensional. And if a team has to be one-dimensional, it's a little bit easier to cover up some of your deficiencies, which they might have there in the secondary. So I like Dallas in a prove-it spot, right? I mean, if this wasn't a joke, if this last month wasn't a joke, Dallas, you got to go in here and you got to show up against Detroit on Thursday night. And so I'll buy in. I could be wrong. Like I said, I had them 5th in my power ratings this past week.
Right there with you, pal. And I thought I was crazy at first when I was looking at the teams and where I would kind of put them right now. But before that Thanksgiving game last week, they were barely rated as an above average team in the NFL. I just think that's wrong at this point for the Dallas Cowboys. I think if they can get into the tournament here, they are very live to maybe go all the way to the Super Bowl. I think this offense is elite. If you look at the past 4 games, they are one of the 2 best offenses in the league. If you look at that past 4 games, they are better on offense. They are better on defense than the Detroit Lions tonight. And Amon-Ra St. Brown's playing on a gimpy ankle. They don't have Sam Laporta. Khalif Raymond, who's been reliable when needed and called upon, is not playing in this game. And they're also banged up in the secondary against one of the best wide receiving cores in the NFL with George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb. And don't forget Jake Ferguson. So for me, it's Cowboys plus 3.5 for 1 unit. It's money line as well for 1 unit. And then I'm also going to sprinkle Jake Ferguson anytime touchdown in this game as well at plus 160. He has almost as many targets inside the 10-yard line as Lamb and Pickens combined in this one, Matt.
If you guys are just joining us, you're driving around. If you're just following us over on Twitter, yes, this is Amon-Ra St. Brown is a go in this one after DNPing all week long. That being said, Steve and I not convinced that he's going to be a real factor in this one. The line out there actually kind of says it. A market low is 61.5, market high is 67.5 from a receiving standpoint. So everybody is not sold on him being back 100% for this Detroit team in a weirdly must-win situation from a team that we thought might actually be the number 1 seed over there in the NFC. Guys, really do appreciate all of you joining us on our new radio part. If you want to continue on our bonus show at 4 for 4 over on the Twitter machine, thanks for being with us on Circa tonight.